United, embarrassed. Amorim, embarrassed. We learned plenty watching City overpower United. Unfortunately, just wasn't really good things. But there's a few things specifically I want to address from that game. So let me run through what we learned. And as always, please do get involved in the comments to have your say. Yeah, the start of this season has been crap. As far as results go, the performance was there against Arsenal, but the result didn't follow. The performance in the first half against Fulham, the result didn't follow. We got the result against Burnley, but it should have been so much easier than it was. And then the City game, that was embarrassing. 4 games in, 4 points. It's the worst start to the league season that we've had since 1992. And Ruben Amorim is rightly under pressure after we finished 15th last season. Now, I want to run through that game yesterday and pick out some key points. This isn't just about moaning about the midfield too, which I will speak about. I'm going to speak about the players, speak about Manu, speak about Bruno, and a few other things as well. You can let me know what you think in the chat. But the first thing I want to speak about, and I'm going to speak about the players and the system equally, but the players first, the quality simply wasn't there against City, all right? Now, there are loads of individuals you could speak about. I'm going to have Luke Shaw up here. The fact that Luke Shaw is still playing for Manchester United and starting for Manchester United really is just mind-boggling. And I think it's simply because of the contract that he is on and the fact that we are still trying to get the player out of him. But he's not been the same player since his injury return last season. That's the truth. And he played all right in his first couple of games. But that game yesterday, right? People are going to be pointing towards Dorgu. His crossing was poor. But this lad had more touches in the opposition box than any other United player. Bruno and Šeško had 0 touches combined in the opposition box. We shouldn't be having Dorgu taking that much attacking responsibility. Therefore, the attacking setup and shape was incorrect. And Mbeumo didn't get the ball enough, didn't get enough opportunities and look quality when he did. Šeško didn't touch the ball in the opposition's box. And when United had the quality to win the ball with the press in the first 15 minutes, we failed to turn those into chances. And you look at City's quality, Donnarumma didn't really have to do much, but when Mbeumo fired a volley in, he got a fingertip to it. Haaland didn't have a sniff in the first 7 minutes of the second half, but when he did, he dinked it over by India and made it 2-0. City had the quality when it mattered and we didn't. But the setup yesterday did not help United. And I'll tell you what, I'll be truthfully honest, I think I'm done with the midfield 2 setup. All right? I'll speak about Bruno here, but you could speak about Ugarte and just the overall setup. Very simple screenshot here. All City had to do was get Doku to drop deeper to make a midfield 3. And therefore, you're outnumbered. I mean, it's not rocket science. And this is the thing that's sort of kind of blowing my mind. Like Ruben Amorim speaking after the game, right? You know what he said. You know, I'm not changing. Change the man if you want to change anything. But he speaks about his sort of philosophy. And he speaks about the Arsenal game. And he spoke about I watched the whole press conference after the game because I wanted to see sort of how he was and how he reacted. He was prickly as you would expect him to be. But Ruben Amorim can't use that Arsenal game as an example of the system working because we're speaking about isolation. In the same way that I can't use this City game to say, oh, that's proof that it's just not working. But I'm not just using this City game. That's the issue. I'm using the 31 games that have happened in the Premier League and the 25% win ratio in the Premier League. I'm using the fact that Ruben Amorim has the worst win percentage of any manager post the Second World War. Like Ruben, mate, the midfield setup's not working. Multiple teams, over 2 different seasons now, have seen the weaknesses, exploited the weaknesses, and City just did it simply by dropping an extra man in and creating a midfield 3. Maresca's Chelsea set up with a 4 diamond. They're going to overrun us again. They're going to have extra bodies in midfield, and the same problems are going to be there again. The midfield 2 really is killing United. But I'll tell you what killed United again. This isn't the first time it's happened, but the defending for all 3 goals, really, was just kind of laughable. The first goal is what I'm going to pick up on here. Like, when you got Bruno Fernandes playing in central midfield, pointing towards his own goal, you're going to get the worst of Bruno. The best of Bruno exists when he's flourishing, looking forward, vision, kicking, getting him towards the opposition's goal, not his own. Here he's ball watching. 4 players around the ball, never mind, still get through. Because he's ball watching, he's not looking over his shoulder like a natural central midfielder would do. The little, just a little scan. There's Foden, probably should mark him. No, he's not, because he's looking at the ball, because he's a ball-focused player. That's who Bruno is, right? And Bruno spoke about the pressing structure problems and the fact that he was tasked with jumping onto Rodri, and therefore Yoro or somebody had to follow up. When they didn't, there was a bit of miscommunication. There was space in the middle. That's the same thing as last season. All right? But just the overall defending for all 3 goals. The third one was just laughable. Completely laughable. I don't know what Maguire and Shaw were doing on the halfway line. The second one, they kind of got played through as a little bit of quality from City, more than it was. It's still a little bit crap from United, I'll be totally honest. But I want to specifically speak about Mainu now for a little bit, because I think he was class when he came on. He really was. And when it comes to this midfield too, the fact that you've got Kobbie Mainu there, who's been completely overlooked, because I was trying to describe this in the live show this morning. Sort of like, Amorim likes his midfielders to be hunters, to be athletically dominant, to be able to have ground coverage that rivals anyone else and betters anybody else, because you have to in a midfield too, because as a midfield 2 instead of a 3, you're covering more ground. But it's probably no coincidence that United, Kobbie came on in the 60th minute, I think. You can see, I suppose part of this is to do with the fact that City were, 3-0 up at that point, so then they sat into a little bit more of a shape, and then United had a little bit more ball, but Mainu was breaking lines, was bringing the ball forward, and when United played, when Ruben Amorim played his players in their better positions, Ahmad went to right wing back instead of a left number 10. Bruno went to a left number 10 instead of a right central midfielder. Kobbie came on and was the pivot alongside Ugarte. Better players in their best positions. And United played better. It's not a coincidence. And again, that's a little bit system related. Actually, no, it's a little bit of the bravery, I suppose, because Ahmad could have started a right wing back, but he went for Mazraoui. And look, when it comes to Ruben, he has to adapt. I'm not here saying that he's got to change his philosophy, and I've said this so many times, and I still haven't done that tactical video, because I'm not a massive tactician. I don't know. I'm not a Premier League manager. But just drop the midfield too. In the exact same way here, right? I think it's a very good example, actually. In the exact same way that City were able to simply say to Doku, hey, just drop in a little bit, and then create a midfield 3, and you'll probably be able to overload and then turn and run. That's what United need to do. Tell, whether it's Cunha, but I don't know, tell one of the number 10s to drop in, to give an extra body to midfield to help. Create some triangles. There's too much space between the players. Ruben, man, the numbers and the facts, they don't lie. This isn't a reaction to a loss against City. This is a reaction to 31 games in the Premier League, to the 25% win ratio. And this is the fact that we're going to have Ratcliffe and Ineos and everyone looking on. And it's about development. It's about progress. If last season isn't considered it isn't considered something that you can just bury and go, you joined mid-season, you can't look at anything. But I needed to see progress and development. And if we saw it in the performance against Arsenal, we rescinded in the second half against Fulham. We did everything we possibly could against Burnley, but the quality wasn't there. Ultimately, we needed a 97th minute winner. And then that against City, we just got schooled. It wasn't even close. Really. And as much as I can point towards a player's quality for the problems that we had there and the problems we had in defence as well, the system is not getting the most out of the players that we have. And Amorim's got to adapt that midfield setup. I'm sorry, but he has to.